What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another Black Desert video. So today I brought someone famous to help update one of our older fishing guides, and especially because today and the past few months there's been a few updates, new spots have different fish, and we wanted to talk about that. So today I brought the famous legendary streamer Choice with us to help talk about it. I saved up a bunch of questions that you guys have had, and we are going to go over all of that and also show you where some of the fish are in game, and I'll show you some other links to things that might be helpful. So Choice, welcome in. You want to tell us about yourself?
Thank you very much. Yes, of course. My name is Choice. I play Berserker. I've been playing BDO since about 2017, and I try to be as knowledgeable as I can on all subjects in the game. And I live stream at twitch.tv/choice.
Also brought Choice in the game because he has over 70,000 hours in this game. Did you just play at launch or when Steam came out?
Right when Steam came out, actually. Yeah, I'm a Steamy.
Oh, nice. It's a lot of hours. Basically, you're on all day, every day. You probably have a lot of knowledge on fishing. Hopefully,
I spend my fair share of time fishing.
So I wrote down a list of all the important questions. I made sure not to make too many of them, just to make sure this video isn't like 5 hours. But what we're going to be doing is answering some of the most important ones, starting with what are the early game fishing spots from low to high mastery, and what should you do assuming you're beginner 1, and then we'll get to like once you're guru or high mastery, where should we go first?
Okay, so best fishing spots for low mastery. We can start there. Quite frankly, one of the best overall fishing spots, just generally, and there's a reason why you see tons of people just there, is convenient old Velia. Velia is a really, really nice and very, very consistently good money spot. You can get beltfish there, like silver beltfish, which aren't the most expensive prize fish there are. However, they are very consistent, and so it makes it where fishing can become more valuable because, first of all, you're not going to catch a lot of fish there, but you are going to catch higher quantities of things like the yellow corvina, the blue bat star, as well as the silver bellfish. So it helps you with your inventory management, but it also helps you with the fact that you are getting consistent money while you're also nearby a Magnus well, which really helps you as a newer player in not having to travel very, very far, or maybe no access to archaeologist map, things like that, which really aid you in doing some of these more obscure fishing locations. So Velia Beach is like the most common, extremely good spot.
And so that also works for people who are, not using the pay to win rod and just say, Balanos rod or anything else.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, you can go there with like a +10 Balanos rod, and then as long as you have a fishing, like a pet of some kind. So there's lots of different pets that have the auto fishing reduction. So if you check your pet list, there's a special thing. It'll say auto fishing reduction. Usually it's on like a polar bear, and then also some special types of event pets like a penguin. There's like a little otter as well that has that. But for the most part, they typically give you one at some point. So you probably have one unless you fed it to another pet.
Yeah, I believe they are currently giving one with the current event. So if you haven't played in a while, one of the, what is that event going on? The Pearl of a Decade gives 2 pet boxes. That's one of them. So
yep. And another good thing is there's these like marvelous Black's lunch boxes. It's a type of food. So if you have access to one of those, like I would not sell them because you're going to make your money back in the auto fishing time reduction that those provide, which will stack with the other types of like auto fishing reduction that we just talked about, like the Balanos rod and the polar bear. So definitely do not sell those. But yeah, outside of that, it's one of the most simple. Just hey, I'm brand new. I need to go fish somewhere.
Yeah. So while we're at it, you want to talk about like what crystals, lightstone combos you would use? Whether I know there's different ones for people who are using the pay to win rod, and then the people who are free to play. Yep. You have set of ones you want to talk about, and then also if you have a screenshot later we can put that on screen.
Yeah, I could provide that. I mean, it's really not super complicated with the whole best crystal setup. It's just life skill mastery. So there's these crystals called vital crystals, and they're actually kind of hard to buy. For the most part, they're sold out, especially on NA. They might not be in, say, different regions. But just stacking as many vital crystals as possible. Each one of them gives you 10 life skill mastery. And then in terms of the best type of Lightstone setup, I generally recommend, I'm going to have to look it up here actually, but there's actually a general mastery Lightstone setup that's really, really handy for like all types of life skilling. And it's not even very expensive. So that one would be 2 paradises, which are about 500 million each. And then there's a fortune, which is 400 million. And then an iridescent lightstone, which is 1.7 billion. Sorry, these are in billions. And that gives all mastery plus 40. What's ideal about that is it can be universal for like all of your mastery. And then you also don't need to buy patiences. So the best fishing mastery setup is actually just having, I think it's 4 patience, or no, it's 3 patiences and an iridescent. So that's going to run you 2 billion, 2.2 billion every patience and an iridescent. So you're looking at 8 billion silver just in Lightstones compared to this other set, which is around 3. So it's a really good starter set, and it's like 5 less mastery, and you'll make that money back in, fishing over time by having a higher mastery. Other
Hmm.
things that can give you mastery, if you're willing to spend the money, like pay to winning, there is like the little Papu uh, fishing carrier item that you
I
can
bought
buy
that.
for 100 pearls, or not 100 pearls, 1,000 pearls or whatever it is. So that gives you 100 mastery. Also, if you do the Olvia Academy, especially as a brand new player, they give you a like blue grade fishing stool, and that can also just be something you put on, as well as the fishing clothes that they give you for Olvia Academy. Putting on your pre-owned accessories that they give you, or just generally buying some like Tet Geranoa. That's what I actually do on my EU account because it's not as progressed as my NA one. But I just have some general Tet Geranoa, which are around 2. Well, on NA they're a bit more expensive, but on EU they're like 1.7 billion, and that's a good way to fill out the rest of your accessories over time. And then other things that can give you mastery. If you join a guild that's really into Blue Battlefield, then that also can give you some mastery if they're successful in winning. And then if you have like a Khan's heart, so like if you go and, which you should be doing, if you join a guild that do guild bosses, you can actually get a Khan's heart for free after your 3rd week of doing this one weekly over there on Akila's Eye, and that'll give you a 25 mastery life like alchemy stone slot, and that's really ideal for fishing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you only use one set of like lightstone combos? I remember back in the day people were doing the durability one when you had an unlimited rod. They no longer really do that. So it's less relevant.
Yeah.
But like if you're running a
Well,
boundless
that
one,
is
you'd run
right.
something else.
So typically, like a little like just putting a brand spellstone, if you get a brand or have a brand or anything like that on your fishing rod, is really kind of enough. Like if you're taking care of it overnight or even after you sleep and come back from work or something, your boundless rod is typically going to last you a pretty long time. It's especially with a brand, so it's not really necessary to be running anything other than just pure mastery.
Hmm.
But if you are running a cool wind fishing rod that they gave out for a season one time, or the Grandpa Cron fishing rod, or for example, the 30-day fishing rod that they recently gave us for a maintenance. Well, the best for that is going to be a predation, lightstone of earth fitted, as well as a fortune and a feather, which the fortune can run you some extra money, but it gives you all durability reduction minus 30%. And this would be for somebody that is like, hey, I'm not really playing BDO right now, but I want to make some progression. You can run out of 2,000 durability in under 30 days. Like
Hmm.
30 days is the duration of those rods. So there still is an application where having that durability reduction is quite useful. The other things that can give you more durability reduction if you're using those types of rods is you need to have a full 8-piece costume set on your fisherman. That even includes having to have an underwear slot. So that's typically going to be the hardest one for people. But a full premium outfit with the underwear is going to give you another 10% durability reduction. And then after that, you have your Lightstone set. And then there's like a bunch of pets actually. So it gets very pearl or like actual real money expensive to get full durability reduction. But basically what you would be running here, I'm just looking at my pets. What you'd be running here is you'd need a tier 5 snow leopard, or you might also need like one of the little white griffins, or you may need what is this little thing? It's like a little snow fox thing. So there are quite a few different pets that give that. There's even this one pet that gives auto fishing reduction, and it's an event pet, and it's basically it's like an anglerfish icon. Yeah, that's also a really good one too. But any pet that says durability reduction in the red skill slot, so the one that all the way to the right side, durability reduction resistance, those can stack up to an additional 21% if you have a tier 5 as well as 4 tier 4s. And so if you have the 10% from that, you got 21% from the pets. So the 10% from the costume, the 21% from the pets, that's 31%. Then you've got another 30% from the durability reduction, that's 61%. And then there's another 30% somewhere, which I'm trying to think where that even comes from. You can get up to 91% total, but those are super useful if you have if you have a triple float fishing rod, just a basic one, or the triple float like big durability ones that they give out. Then it's very useful to be using that, because you will blow through the 2000 durability on that like Dreamy Starlight fishing rod that they give out sometimes.
There was one thing I remembered. There used to be a quest. I think it might still be in the game where you could just get triple float rods. I don't know how frequently, but you can continuously get them, or is it through exchanges? But I don't remember how. Do you know that one?
Yeah. So I've heard of that as well. There was one quest that I think you could get up to 4 of them, and then there was I think a weekly recurring one, but I don't know. I looked it up, and they were just too much hassle to bother with. And, if you're fishing in BDO, you're probably trying to be lazy. And now you're going to do active gameplay to go try to get a triple float, and those really don't have too much durability on them.
I guess the next thing I wanted to ask was durability, assuming you have a lot like the pay to win rod versus reduced fishing time if you're free to play. Is it better to invest into mastery or the reduced time if you're AFK fishing?
Well, if you're AFK fishing, I think that the time, like the auto fishing time, is much better, because you're just fishing more things more often. You might not be getting as many, like mastery has diminishing returns as you get more and more of it. And so once you start reaching around 1600 mastery, you're starting to really start to spend a lot of money to get up to that 2000 mark, and you're really only raising your chance of getting a prize fish by like not even a full percentage at some point. So it's ultimately like maybe 10 to 20% more prize fish to go that extra 400 mastery, but you're also like doubling your input into being able to make that happen. And so at some point or another, your mastery is going to be good enough to where losing just a little bit of mastery in order to get more auto fishing reduction time is just simply better to get the auto fishing reduction time.
Do you know the specific breakpoint in terms of mastery for that, or is it not really as relevant?
1600 is kind of, I think everybody starting out should aim to get as high, as close to 1600 as possible. That's kind of like where you're comfortable, and then I would say building up that base of like as you start fishing and as you start gaining levels, and if you do the OLV Academy, I think they start you off pretty high up. I don't know exactly what you get to, but it's got to be close to master. Getting your fishing level also improves your mastery every single time as you're fishing. So it might be initially hard to get the 1600 if you're just starting out brand new, but over time you will be getting more mastery as you're fishing, and then hitting that 1600 mark through having your pre-owned accessories. If you go through and run through the seasons, you get 2 of them from the OLV Academy. Getting a try or even tet. One of the best possible things to get mastery would actually be the like the fishing stool that they give you. So the Manos fishing chair, that is a super worth the value in getting at least a tet. Getting even a pen is quite good value, but there's other things to work on. But if you start off with like the basic free pre-owned that they give you, and the stool that they give you, and the clothes that they give you from OLV Academy, and then you get that mastery setup, and you go do the con, and you start getting some of those plus 10 mastery lightstone or crystals. Yeah, like you're gonna You're not going to be at 1600 yet, but you're going to be really close to it, even just starting out. And then by the time you start fishing, you're probably going to start reaching that 1600 as you get to closer to Guru.
In terms of gear, what would you recommend in terms of progression? Like, would you say go for the crystals while you're getting the gear, or would you just say which is the cheapest thing for a beginner to get first after the Olvia Academy free stuff?
There is, let me just look up the name of this item because it's kind of a long name. So there's these items called Sankpion coins, and you may already have them from just doing, say, as a new player, you're likely to have completed Land of the Morning Light, and as you're questing there, you get Sankpion coins, and those can actually be exchanged directly for a Forest Crystal, and the Forest Crystal can be used to craft one of those Life Skill Masteries. So every 1,000 of those Forest Crystal, every 1,000 of those Sankpion coins, you pretty much have the material for a very low cost in order to make yourself one of those Lightstone things, one of those crystal slots, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Additionally, if you have a certain node, let me just find out which node it is. Yeah, so if you have the excavation node in Dokebi Forest, the top one there, it has a chance of getting forest crystals. So that's another way that you could over time get yourself those mastery crystals, is you could do some things that give you Sankpion coins, like some of the questing you might have already had. If you run Calamity 7 boss blitzes, just for the enjoyment of it, if that's something that you're interested in experiencing for new content as a new player, those also award you a Sankpion coins weekly. So there's things you could do in order to try to buy them over time. But they are rather expensive to get yourself in terms of the mastery that they provide. Typically, in terms of priority, you're going to be looking more so at the stool at Tet. You're going to want to get your Preon accessories. You're going to want to get that Tet Jaranoa of any other Preons you don't have. And then you're going to want to get like a duo or even tri-Manos fishing clothes, which is going to be very, very, like that's sort of the order that you would go in, is working on your accessories and your stool and your actual outfit before you ever start to look at really investing heavily into those crystals. But it's basically the order would be: your stool is super important, your free Preon stuff, or your free, I keep on saying Preon, I meant to say Floramos, your free Floramos accessories that they give you, as well as the free Khan's Heart, and then working on your Manos fishing clothes, and then the priority kind of comes to like the crystals after your Lightstones are done.
Yeah, so one thing I've heard people ask is it important to get the Dawn crystals? And I think that one is just XP, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so like those are very expensive to get, and it really only boosts your XP. At a certain point in time, your XP, it gets so slow to level up. I think that those types of XP things, like XP is good to have. If you have life skill stuff and you're just like, oh, I've got some solid life skilling bonuses, I'm going to try to level my fishing faster. But once you start getting to that like Guru 10, Guru 10, you're really starting to slow down in your XP. And to invest that heavily to get such small amounts of mastery, like, nah, it's really not a super priority.
Yeah,
personally
so the
don't even
Verdir
have
ones
them
are just
now
like
as an
endgame
player.
stuff.
Yeah, very endgame, very endgame.
Now, something else I wanted to ask is for beginners. Obviously, as you get to different tiers, like, you know, professional, artisan, master, which one should you save? Like the white, green, blue, yellow? I personally keep yellow, discard anything under. But what do you do?
You know, I think that all depends on how much inventory you have.
Mm-hmm.
So and how often you check too. So I tend to, on my NA account here, I tend to throw everything away that's not yellow and above. But on my EU account, I have a lot of fishing, like I'm fishing in Velia, which is exhausted. And so when you're fishing in an exhausted area, you can afford to keep some of the bluefish. So I keep bluefish and above because I can come back in 10 hours and still have enough inventory slots to facilitate that. Whereas if I'm fishing on my main, I tend to do a lot more abundant spots, which means that I kind of need to throw out everything that's not yellow because I'm fishing so frequently and so quickly that I'm just like running out of inventory slots. It also depends on, do you have a Dreamy Starlight fishing rod or a Cool Wind fishing rod or the Grand Pacron rod, because that also is going to fill up your inventory faster. If you're just using a basic Balanos rod, you're fishing 1 fish per catch, which means that you have a lot more time that you can be AFK. So if you're using anything like a triple float or any of the event rods, probably keep yellow and above. But if you're using like a regular Balanos, I think blue and above as a starter.
I think there was a quest that they changed to get the fish tank. Now it used to be like a week to get it. Now it's just you can get it in 1 day. I'm not sure if that's still correct.
It does not take very long. Yeah, I actually just recently did that quest, and it was like partially a hassle. You basically had to go down to the just outside of Velia. You'll notice on the mini map there is a thing.
Is that event only, or is it the Sea Palace one? You can only get there from morning light, like on a regular day.
I guess that was an event only one. Yeah, so yeah, I had to go to the morning light. So if you go to the morning light there, right outside of Nampo Moodle, it says Swirling Sea, the Sea Palace. There is a quest line where you have to. I recommend looking up a guide for this. There are some guides out there, but you talk to a guide just outside the Sea Palace, and he's going to lead you on this whole quest that you need to do before you can actually get the. There's like a knowledge you have to get on a princess first, and it involves this guy that's standing outside of the Sea Palace. So you have to talk to that guy, you have to go in the Sea Palace, do his quest chain, get knowledge on this girl, then you have to go to a little papu by a waterfall in the Sea Palace. You have to do his quest, and then ultimately leads you to that girl, who then gives you the fish tank, but you can't get it unless you have knowledge on her if you did that quest. So there is like a... It took me like maybe an hour max.
Is that under suggested? Somewhere? Like just for people to find it?
I'm really not sure. You know, I just looked up like fish tank guide on BDO, like just YouTubed it, and I found something really quick. So yeah, I'd say just following a guide is useful, because there are some prerequisites, and these guides are going to like lead you through those prereqs.
One more question before we actually go to the spots. You want to talk about the fishing contest, the weekly thing? It's kind of new, like not new, but a couple months old new. People who probably don't even know that existed.
If you go to your escape menu and hit the life tab and go to the fish guide, there's like this little thing that you can click called Weekly Fishing Contest. Right now it's pink dolphin, red sea bream, and moroi. Or mori. And this fishing contest is really, really good. You basically, because hardly anybody does it, if you catch a singular solitary pink dolphin, you're probably going to get 1 billion silver. And then the red sea bream and the mori are the same exact like reward structure. If you hit reward details, you can see first place awards you with 3 billion. If you get top 100, you get 1.5 billion. If you get top 300, you get a guaranteed 1 billion. And then you also get some extra little things along the way. So all of the fishing spots that we're about to show you in this video is practically only for the lazy. Like, if you truly want to get the most out of fishing, you should go to these areas that are doing this fishing contest, because so few people do it. You can practically guarantee yourself over 1 billion silver from each of the 3 fishes. However, the pink dolphin is going to be harder because you can't guarantee yourself that you get one of those. But generally, wherever the red fish grade is, that's where you should probably be fishing for the week anyway, because anywhere that there are red grade fish of high value like pink dolphin, all these spots are generally pretty close in value, and the allure of possibly getting one and winning the fish contest at the same time far outweighs whatever other little perceived value differences there may be between one spot to another. So the fishing contest is like actually it in terms of making the most money fishing. Oh yeah. Like this is something that people have like told me about, and have been like, yo, I don't know if we really want to make this public. Like, you should probably gatekeep this. So I'm a little hesitant to talk about it, because the more people that do it, the less easy money it is. Because right now, if you catch one fish, you're almost guaranteed to be in the top 300. It's like that easy. So fishing contest, very, very goated. Worth it.
But is it easy though, or do you still have to like put in some work?
Well, the work that you have to put in is
you still have to know where the things are too, in a way.
Yep, you gotta know where the fish are, and sometimes those fish are just in the middle of nowhere. Like if you need to go catch, if you need to go catch a Migaloo, you're almost guaranteed to be in the middle of a water somewhere, and that can make it quite complicated for you to do your weekly fish turn-ins because you kind of need an archaeologist map, or you need to go out of your way to like be having your T10 horse or T9 unicorn or something in order to bring yourself back there, and that decreases your AFK time. So there's a reason why less people do it, and it has a lot to do with just being lazy. But if you really want to get the most out of your fishing money per week, then you definitely try to do all three of those
Mhm.
fish.
So like Margoria for active fishing versus AFK, you know, like on an average breakdown, how much more you would get, assuming average RNG and everything else, decent mastery. If you were active fishing out in the ocean, how much better?
Active
Or is it?
fishing. You know what? I can't say that I've ever really gone active fishing.
Neither have I, to be honest.
Fishing has always been something that I've just been AFK. I go to my pond, I set up my fishing rod, and then I come back and see the riches. So, active fishing wise, I don't know. I really don't know much about that new system too, with the Carex where you can fish along the way.
I've tested that. It's
But
not really good.
yeah, that's the trouble is if you it's never been relevant enough to test because if you're actively playing the game, you may as well be actively grinding or you
Mm,
may as well be actively hunting or any other like gathering even like any life skill that fishing has never truly been competitive with active gameplay, which is why it's really a AFK player's dream.
Also, do you have the title, the Fisher one, from the weekly contest?
I've won the contest quite a few times. I don't know how many times you have to win it to get it.
I think it's
Yeah,
just
I'm not
one,
entirely
isn't it?
sure.
Oh, 20. Oh yeah, it's 20. How
20?
many
Okay, I've never won it 20
tokens do you
times.
get? Is it just one?
um, where I'm not actually sure what is it. The title Fisher, the title tokens.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's in
I see
your
that.
the title token.
Yeah, I'm guessing it might be dependent on your rank actually. Let me take a look in the fish guide here. Reward details. You get 3 title tokens for first place. You get 2 for second place. You get 1 for third place. So it actually is pretty difficult to get that title. You got a podium in order to get any of them. So
Mm,
yeah, I've only won in the top 30 to top 300. I've never actually placed what first, second, or third. But I've also not really done a whole lot of the fishing contests because I'm one of those lazy fishers. So yeah.
yeah. So unfortunately, we don't know too much about active, but most people aren't really doing that, and if they are, they're probably making significantly more, but no one talks about it. Okay, so there's a lot of people, and you're probably wondering, where do you fish? There's a right and a not so right place to be fishing here.
So the most basic thing is just casting your rod anywhere along where you see all these people, but the more inclined fishermen's, you see them angled right here. So you actually want to, ideally what you do is you tow the line between the safe zone and the not safe zone.
Hmm.
And ultimately what ends up happening is that this over here, it tends to be less often exhausted. Right now, it just so happens to be exhausted, but since it's like you're gonna be in the same exact fishing pool, whether you are casting sideways like these guys, or whether you are just casting straight on, you get the same types of fish. But since less people fish in this side, which is where the break is, you oftentimes get more like average fish pool, which helps you fish quicker. So you do want to like cast your rod angled like these people here. That's like the most ideal. But you don't want to be in the, especially if you're not on a 49. Like these people right here, they are fishing outside of a safe zone and they are above level 49, which means that either me or John could just stop them from fishing right now. So you want to be out here if you're a 49. Otherwise, if you're above 49, you just angle yourself like this and that'll be perfectly fine.
Hmm.
And the main fish you get from this is just like the silver beltfish. You're going to get those pretty often. And, you can expect like 700 million. It depends on your mastery, obviously. But on my EU account, I think I'm around the 1600 mastery range. I think I get like 700, 800 million silver with no beltfish per night. And that's just with a plus 10 Balanos rod.
Have
and
you
then if you get
tested,
the male
like, you see
fish,
all these people over here, they're just in town, but like if you turn
yeah.
and what you just said, how much of a difference does
Well,
that make?
yeah, well, given the fact that both of them are exhausted right now, it's going to make no difference at all. But this is more of like a strategy for, I guess, when the game is not as popular as it is. Right now, we're in a pretty big boom, especially in EU where I'm fishing. So like, just that is normie fishing. That those numbers I gave you is normie fishing where
Hmm.
everything's exhausted.
Yeah, that sounds about right from my testing. Basically
Yeah.
just fish wherever unless it's not exhausted, then you do something different.
Okay, so let's jump into the Magnus well here. I'm
Hmm.
going to show you another couple common fishing spots that people use when they... So I'd say we can split up these spots into archaeologist map versus non-archaeologist map spots. So we're going to go to Alta Nova here. Yeah, this is a solid spot. Um, What's good about this spot is it gives you the yellow Corvina and the the blue bat star, and it also has a chance of giving you a tripod fish, which is like 720 million silver at base, plus like distance bonus and stuff. So this is a solid spot. You want to cast off kind of the corner of this dock. It doesn't really matter. You're kind of in under 3 depth, but anywhere where these guys are standing
Hmm.
is good. And then there's actually another spot that's a depth level 4. However, it is more of a... This spot I would say is more of a archaeologist map spot, and you also need a boat. I can't really show you specifically because nobody seems to be fishing here on their boat. But there's like a very thin sort of rectangular line that's right in the middle of the water between these two canyons, like in the very center of this canyon. And you have to specifically park your boat there and fish there. It's a depth level 4 spot, which means that you can get up to a blobfish. And because a lot less people actually go fish there, it's technically the better version of Altanova because the blobfishes were slightly more money. It's just that you got to have a boat and you ideally have your archaeologist map, or else you're trying to travel between water, and it's just a bit more of a hassle in your morning routine when you go and sell your fish. So that's probably why a lot of people don't do this. It's marginally more money than the dock, so people just choose comfort over,
Yeah,
the
I think that's why
silver.
most people just choose Velia regardless.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Let's go now to another spot that doesn't use the archaeologist map. So we're going to travel all the way to Grana. Not very contested, right? Like, you can see just how few people actually go for the fishing contest. But what's nice about Lake Flondor is it's close enough to a Magnus well. And let me actually double check what depth this is.
Now,
Yeah,
how
Common
free
City
to
Lake
play friendly
Flondor.
would you say it is if you were trying to do these fishing competitions, assuming you don't have, high
Well,
mastery, all that stuff?
I would say it's extremely free to play friendly for the non-red grade fish. If you're going after the yellow and the blue grade, I think it's extremely realistic that you could place top 300 like
Hmm.
nearly weekly. If you are trying to go for the red grade fish, it's very far-fetched that you would ever even get one. If you did get one, you're almost guaranteed to be in the top 300. So my suggestion is make sure you place highly in the yellow and the blue fish, and then if you have extra time before the end of the week, and you're like, oh, I got 3 days, you could try your chances at the pink fish,
Hmm.
but it's not nearly as reliable. But yeah, Lake Flondor is a really good spot. This gives albino coelacanths, which are 28 mil. It gives white groupers, which are 40 mil, and they have moderate chances. It's like a 5% chance if you catch the rare proc. And then pink dolphins, these are a billion silver if you catch one. Plus, if you catch one, you're going to get that guaranteed like billion silver or more even from the event or from the fishing contest. So Lake Flondor is not a bad spot to just generally fish, but it is kind of reserved for the high mastery, kind of reserved for the triple flow fishing rod individuals. If you're not that, then I'd say you probably shouldn't be here compared to
Hmm.
Velia or that other spot in Alta Nova that we showed you. So Grana is actually one of them that does compare a lot better to Velia these days. There's even one that's just kind of like outside of the Sylph Temple around eastern border. It's called the Abandoned Land. There's also a really solid money making pool just out in that river between that
Hmm.
node. But either of these spots, they tend to not give you any kind of red fish, but they tend to give you a lot of yellow fish. So this is the type of thing where you're never going to wake up to a big jackpot, but you are able to get consistent money. And that money tends to rival Velia because it's oftentimes abundant here. And Velia is always going to be exhausted.
But
And
for
Velia
people
is
who
just too
just want
convenient.
to, not really think about it, this is probably
Yep.
solid.
This is solid. Yeah, this is a solid pick. You can see a few people here, but once again, because it is abundant, you are going to be more limited on your inventory. I know I've tried fishing in the abandoned lands over there, and inventory becomes a problem. And if you're somebody that likes AFKing a long time, Veli is nice because it's always exhausted, which means you're catching far less fish, but they're better value fish than like small value, high quantity is what you're going to get out of Grana and like say around the outskirts of Idel.
Do you have the 100 or the 50 tank?
I just have the 50. Yeah,
Yeah, me
I never
too.
felt the need for the 100. Yeah.
Because I was wondering, how much do you have to fish? Is like a 50 tank is good for 12 hours, maybe more. 100 is like days, or at least 2 days at a time, probably.
Yeah, well, they made the fish now where they last like a lot longer. I can't remember. That's another thing that should probably mention is that you want to turn in your fish somewhat regularly. I'd say at least if you're
Like
inventory
90 to
permitting, if you do it
100%,
once.
probably.
Yeah, like inventory permitting, it's best that you do it at least once a day, but even like once before bed and once before like waking, like after you wake up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, another spot we're gonna go to is let's go back to Medaya for a moment. But the next spots are kind of obscure, and we're going all the way now to an island. So unless you have a unicorn or unless you are using an archaeologist map, which I would never grind. I would never fish here unless I had an archaeologist map. I've tried it before with no arc map, and it's just a huge hassle every morning. You dread turning in your fish. It's just an awful experience all around. So Tigris Island is a very solid fishing spot, but it does tend to err on the side of big jackpot fish. You're gonna get consistently solid money, a little bit less than what you would expect at Velia. However, there are gonna be moments where you get a Migaloo, and that means that your fishing lot is gonna be worth over 4 billion silver just from that one fish catch. So this is more of a spot for higher mastery to up your chances on the Migaloo, as well as anybody that has an archaeologist map. I would recommend being here, only if you had an archaeologist map. If you don't have an archaeologist map, I wouldn't say so. And this spot is probably really good right now. I'd actually argue that this spot is likely better than Velia at this time because it's abundant. This spot does tend to go into exhausted, and when that happens, I would say Velia is probably just as good. But whenever this spot is at abundant, I think that this is like the second best, one of like the second best spot to fish, and it probably becomes first best if you have it as abundant. For the last year and a half, and I've gotten 24. So I guess you can average around a little over 1 a month. It should be expected.
Yep.
Okay, so now we're gonna travel back to the Magnus, and the last spot that I really, well, actually, there's 2 spots. Never mind. We're gonna go all the way to Hakoven Island. I'm gonna go on a boat ride. So you don't need to have a character for this. You can have just a Furia cog. That's totally fine. You just need somewhere to stand because the spot is depth level. I think it's either 4 or 5. Let me double check here.
You would think anything in the ocean is probably 5.
Yeah, this is a depth 5. So if you're fishing around Hakoven Island, it's only a depth 1. If you go a little bit farther, it's depth 2, but then depth 5 is where we're about to go. Oh,
isn't there a spot that's like straight up right of Arihaza? I kind of like the same thing as this, but in Arihaza, going right from there. Or is that 2 different ones?
I'd have to check on that. I think that's a lot less common of a spot if it is. So you can see a ton of people here. I'm very curious whether this is exhausted, but this is another spot that rivals that of Velia, especially when it's not exhausted. Hakoven is also another very, very, very high mastery. Oh, it is abundant. Yeah. This would be another really good spot. However, you need an archaeologist map. It's also very far out of the way in order to be all the way out here. But you can see that it's popular. A lot of people like to go here because it has Migaloos as well. So once again, it's like slightly worse than Velia, but then you get that big paycheck once a month. And that's going to kind of carry the spot.
You know, I remember someone telling me about this spot, and then I just think I've done it once, and then that was it.
Yep. This spot here is another one that is similar to Grana mainland, or like Grana City, where you're going to get a lot consistent yellow grade fish. Not a whole lot of red stuff, but tons of yellow. So if you have a good inventory slot and you have like solid mastery, you're going to need solid mastery. Not crazy mastery, but solid mastery. Like you should be above 1600 here. And this is a really half and half pick where it's not super annoying to get to the Magnus. Like the Magnus is just across the water, but you are kind of in a ditch, and it means that ideally you're just going to be able to fly across or something if you have a Pegasus. If you don't and you just have a regular horse, you're just looking for a world of trouble. So, you know, this is like a half and half Magnus, non-Magnus spot, or a map spot, I should say. Yeah, those are all the main spots. Just for everyone's information about like what I do, I tend to stick to Tigris Island, like exclusively. On my EU account, which is no archaeologist map and less mastery, I just stay in Velia. And I think that if you are extremely inclined, if there's one thing to take away from this video, is you cannot understate how good the fishing contest is. So if you really wanted to make your most money there, you definitely should be chasing after those fish because nobody does it and it's really easy.
So TLDR, if you are under 1600, stay in like Velia or something over. Try out all the spots that we just talked about.
Yeah, anywhere that didn't need a map. Like you could do Grana, you could do this this place by Eastern Border, you could do Velia. But and then also Altanova docks, not bad. But if you have a map and you have higher mastery, well, you're probably looking at Tigris, you're looking at Hakoven, you're looking at the middle of that water in Altanova. And then I guess you could also, if you have a high mastery, go to that Lake Flondor too.
That is all the spots, and thanks for sharing all the spots that, you know, maybe people didn't know, and it's been fun. So do you want to tell everyone where to find you, what they should expect? What do you do?
Absolutely, yeah. You can find me at twitch.tv/choice. I have been lately going for my second account to hardcap. So my NA account here, I basically have just nothing but time-gated progression. And so I've been going to the EU server, and I've been trying to progress there, and I'm trying to go for over 850 gear score over there. And you can expect a lot of grinding. You can expect some high-level PvP. I got rank 1 Zerker in AOS last season. I've won a couple... Well, I guess I've gotten second place in quite a few tournaments and won only one tournament, official PA tournament. So high-level PvP and solid advice for where to grind and how to gear and stuff. So twitch.tv/choice.
Yeah, and then do you do any YouTube stuff? I noticed you were doing a few more videos lately. Do you have any secret plans that you could tell us in advance?
Well, yeah, so I have a YouTube channel. It's just I'm Choice is the handle. I couldn't get the just regular Choice, unfortunately, but I post YouTube videos there from time to time. Typically, I've been trying to get more into it, but man, mad respect to you, John. It is hard to find topics like on a daily, weekly basis to make videos on, genuinely. Like, I would post more, but unless you're just doing Global Lab reviews or you're doing like patch reviews, it's really hard to pick topics. At the end of the day, I think I'm going to start refreshing some old guides because I posted for many years and I feel like I've done every video I can think of, but maybe it's time to do some refreshers. So maybe expect that. Expect some refresher guides on some of the old stuff I've posted. So yeah, you can subscribe there too. And no promises on a schedule like John necessarily, but yeah, you'll see me 5 days a week on Twitch.
Yep. We'll leave all the links in the description where you can find Choice. Go follow him. Do you know what time are you usually live on an average, like start to end?
Yeah, I usually start in the afternoon. Typically, you'll find me. Well, daylight savings kind of confusing right now, but I would say like 1 p.m. PST in the summertime or around noon PST in the wintertime. and that's when I start, and I usually end after Node Wars, so whatever time that is for you. Yeah, and I love it. I like grinding, and then I like PvPing, so I do a little.
All right, thanks so much for watching, and we will see you later. Peace.